Logan Ashford had a reputation for being both brilliant and impulsive. At 31, he was the youngest billionaire in the tri-state area, a self-made magnate whose financial empire included a stake in cutting-edge tech firms, high-end real estate, and a blossoming chain of boutique hotels. Yet despite his wealth and success, there was a restlessness within him. He often felt disconnected from the very people who worked under his name. On a brisk Thursday morning, Logan found himself seated in his sleek corner office high above downtown Manhattan, staring at an urgent message from his head of human resources. Mr. Ashford, we have an unusual situation at Willow Creek Resort in upstate New York. The on-site general manager, Mr. Ellison, has fallen ill unexpectedly. Appendicitis. He'll be out for at least 2 weeks. The busy season for the resort is around the corner. Our interim manager is away on family leave. We're short-staffed. Can we discuss solutions ASAP? Logan's immediate thought was to send someone from corporate. But the more he considered it, the more he realized he might seize the moment. Over the last few months, he'd been itching to break out of the boardroom to see how his properties actually ran at ground level. He wanted to reconnect with why he'd built his empire in the first place, to create places people loved, not just profit centers. Without hesitation, he called the HR director. "I'll go myself," he said simply. The director, Ms. Brenner, sputtered with surprise. "You, sir? You want to manage a resort for 2 weeks?" Logan grinned at her disbelief. "Why not? I own the place and I've always wanted to learn the ropes. Besides, we can't leave it in disarray. Just keep it quiet. I don't want the staff to freak out knowing I'm their boss. I'll show up as an interim manager, co-managing with whoever else is on site, or as a pinch hitter." Misstep Brenner paused. "Understood, sir, but I should remind you, Willow Creek is a busy place this time of year. They have multiple events, a big wedding coming up. It's no small job." Logan's blood buzzed with excitement. "Perfect. I'll head up tomorrow morning. Get me a roster of staff and anything else I need to know." He ended the call, mind racing with possibilities. The plan was simple, if slightly outrageous. He'd arrive incognito, at least incognito in the sense that no one on site would realize he was the Logan Ashford, the property's ultimate owner. Instead, he'd be introduced as Logan Carter, a temporary manager stepping in from the corporate offices. If staff asked questions, Ms. Brenner would say he was from an internal leadership program. This way, Logan could learn the day-to-day challenges without staff bending over backward to impress him. He texted his personal assistant, Sabrina, to pack casual but professional clothes rather than his usual designer suits. Willow Creek Resort was nestled near scenic lakes and rolling hills, far from the hustle of Manhattan. He'd likely need comfortable shoes and outerwear to handle the autumn chill. That evening, as Logan mulled over the potential fiasco or triumph of his plan, he felt an unexpected thrill. He'd grown tired of the monotony of board meetings, always looking at spreadsheets and deals, rarely seeing the real impact of his holdings. 2 weeks in a real managerial role might be just the breath of fresh air he needed, a chance to be boots on the ground, so to speak. The next day, Logan drove himself to Willow Creek Resort, enjoying a rare escape from the city traffic. Steering his sleek SUV along winding roads, he marveled at the vibrant autumn foliage, a cascade of gold, red, and orange across the rolling hills. He tried not to think about the million tasks piling up in his absence. His phone pinged every few minutes with emails, but for once he resisted the urge to check them. This was a chance for him to be present, to reconnect with the front lines of his business. He arrived at the resort by mid-afternoon. The main building resembled a grand lodge, its rustic wood beams contrasting beautifully with large glass windows overlooking a serene lake. A discreet sign read, "Willow Creek Resort, Ashford Group." Logan parked in a side lot, hoping to avoid immediate scrutiny. Then he grabbed a duffel bag and strode to the reception desk. Inside, the lobby was warm and inviting. A massive stone fireplace crackled in the corner, armchairs arranged for guests to lounge and watch the changing leaves outside. A few families milled about, checking in or sipping complimentary cider. Logan approached the front desk and introduced himself simply as Logan Carter, the new pinch hitter manager. A young, frazzled woman behind the desk blinked in recognition. "Ah, You must be the corporate liaison Ms. Brenner mentioned. Welcome, Mr. Carter. My name's Imogen. So glad you're here. Things have been hectic since Mr. Ellison got sick. I'm happy to help, Logan said, putting on his best approachable smile. Can you point me to the office or the staff area? I'd love to settle in. Imogen handed him a key card. We've set you up in one of the staff suites on the second floor. It's not as fancy as our guest rooms, but it's convenient. Once you're settled, you'll meet Clarissa. She's the head of housekeeping and events. She's basically keeping us running single-handedly right now. Logan's eyebrows rose. That's impressive. Looking forward to working with her. He took his bag and followed Imogen's directions to the staff suite corridor. It was modest but comfortable. Clean bed, small kitchenette, a window overlooking the lake. He dropped his things, gazed out at the picturesque view, and exhaled. This was a far cry from the frantic noise of Manhattan. After freshening up, he headed downstairs to find Clarissa. He soon discovered she was a middle-aged woman with a no-nonsense attitude, streaks of gray in her dark hair, and keen eyes that didn't miss a detail. She ushered him into a small office behind the housekeeping closet. Welcome, she said briskly, scanning a roster of schedules. We're short-staffed in every department, from front desk to kitchen. The fall festival is coming up, plus a wedding next weekend, so we're in over our heads. Thank goodness you're here. Logan smiled politely. I'll do my best. What's top priority? She pushed a clipboard his way. We need you in an overall managerial role, but the biggest immediate issue is that our banquet coordinator just quit. Also, housekeeping has a temp worker starting today, someone new. We'll see how that goes. But first, we have a wedding couple arriving in 2 days, expecting a final walkthrough. I need you to handle that. Logan studied the schedule. No problem. Clarissa leveled him with a curious look. You sure you're up for this, city boy? He suppressed a grin. I'm confident. Let's get started. They dove into a whirlwind overview of the tasks ahead. Vendor contracts for the wedding, staff rosters for the upcoming festival, an ongoing room renovation schedule. It was more operational detail than Logan typically handled, but he found it refreshing. He was used to stepping into tough situations, just usually at a high-stakes investor meeting, not in a busy resort corridor where the housekeeping staff might ask him for new vacuum filters. After an hour, Clarissa called housekeeping to introduce the new temp and go over tasks. The phone rang 3 times, then a soft female voice answered. Housekeeping, this is Zara. Logan overheard the quick exchange, hearing Clarissa instruct her to restock linens on the 3rd floor. Something about the voice intrigued him, warm, yet slightly breathless, as though she'd been running up and down hallways all day. Then Clarissa hung up, turned to Logan and said, By the way, that's Zara James. She's a temp, covering for a couple of employees out sick. She just started this morning. Seems nice enough but shy. You might bump into her if you're checking on the rooms. Logan filed the name away in his mind. Zara James. A new face in a place where he was also new, in a way. He wondered if they'd end up crossing paths. He had no idea just how significant that meeting would become. By the evening, Logan had immersed himself in the nitty-gritty of resort operations, attending a quick debrief with the kitchen staff, reviewing housekeeping schedules, and scanning the event board for upcoming reservations. Willow Creek was busier than he'd expected. It served as a popular retreat for city dwellers seeking a slice of nature, especially during autumn. Weddings, corporate retreats, family getaways, the place thrived on variety. After a quick dinner in the employees' break room, a simple sandwich he prepared himself, Logan decided to stroll the corridors to observe how things were running at ground level. He made mental notes about furniture that might need updating or corners that could use fresh paint. This was the kind of direct involvement he rarely got to do in his other properties, and he was determined to use the next 2 weeks wisely. While walking through the 2nd floor hallway, he spotted a figure ahead, balancing a tower of folded towels and linens. The stack was so tall, it practically concealed the person's face. Logan quickened his pace, heel, ready to offer help before the precarious load toppled. Careful, he called gently. Let me get that. The person whirled around in surprise, the top few towels nearly slipping. A soft yelp sounded as she struggled to keep the stack from tumbling. Logan lunged forward, steadying it with his hand. Thanks, the woman murmured, peeking around the linen pile. She had big, warm brown eyes and wisps of dark hair escaping a messy bun. Her cheeks were pink from exertion. I didn't think housekeeping would involve quite so much heavy lifting. Logan smiled. It's no problem. Where are you taking these? She nodded down the hallway. Room 223 and 224. Then I have 2 more rooms after that. I'm headed that way, he lied good-naturedly, so let me carry them. She looked at him doubtfully. I appreciate it, but I can manage. You're the manager, right, Mr. Carter? He blinked in surprise. Clearly, word traveled fast. Yes, Logan Carter. You must be Zara? He recognized her voice from the phone call in Clarissa's office. She nodded, shifting her weight. Zara James, I just started today, so you'll probably see me running around with piles of laundry a lot. Logan gently took half the stack from her arms. Well, Miss James, in my experience, the best managers are the ones who help wherever needed. Let me lighten your load. A faint smile touched her lips. All right, I guess I can't argue with that. Thank you. They walked side by side down the hallway. Up close, he noticed details about her. The faint smudge of laundry detergent dusting her sleeve, the gentle curve of her jaw, the slight furrow in her brow as though she carried some hidden worry. In turn, she sneaked glances at him, probably trying to figure out this manager, who dressed simply in chinos and a button-down shirt, far from the typical corporate uniform she might expect. When they reached room 223, she unlocked the door and flipped on the lights. The room was cozy with rustic decor. Plus, Zara carefully placed her linens on the bed, while Logan set his portion on a nearby chair. She let out a small sigh of relief, shaking out her arms. I used to do office temp work, she remarked. Filing, organizing, data entry. Housekeeping is an adjustment. Logan cocked his head. Why the switch? She shrugged. I moved out here recently, long story, and this was the only temp position available through the agency. I needed the income, so here I am. She gave a self-conscious smile. I'm not complaining, though. The resort is beautiful. He nodded. It is, and we're lucky to have you. By the way, if you need anything, a lighter schedule, a new cart, whatever, let me know. She hesitated, something like surprise flickering in her eyes. Thank you, Mr. Carter. That's considerate. Call me Logan, he said. I'm not big on formalities. She paused, a hint of a smile curving her lips. All right, Logan, thanks again. They spent the next few minutes placing fresh towels in the bathroom and dropping extra blankets in the closet for guests who might be chilly at night. As they worked, they chatted in fits and starts, each question revealing small tidbits about the other. Zara was from a small city about 2 hours away, she mentioned, but didn't elaborate on what had brought her here. Logan caught a glimmer of pain in her eyes whenever she hinted at her past. He wondered if there was heartbreak or some other hardship there. Once the room was sorted, Logan offered to help with the next, but Zara shook her head, half laughing. I'll be fine. I appreciate the assist, but you probably have manager stuff to do. He chuckled. I'll leave you to it. But if you see me wandering the halls again, feel free to rope me in. I'm a decent linen carrier. A shy grin broke out on her face. Deal. With that, Logan slipped back into the corridor, feeling an odd sense of buoyancy. Something about Zara's genuine warmth, her quiet determination, struck a chord. He reminded himself that he was here to keep the resort afloat for 2 weeks, nothing more. Yet the memory of her grateful smile lingered in his mind far longer than he anticipated. By the second day, Logan settled into a routine. He rose early, grabbed coffee from the lobby, and made rounds checking on each department. He discovered that managing a resort was no small feat. Ensuring the housekeeping schedule lined up with guest turnovers, meeting with the head chef about the seasonal menu, verifying that the maintenance staff had enough supplies. Every hour brought a new task or micro-crisis. Despite the busyness, Logan found himself seeking out brief interactions with Zara. He often spotted her hauling cleaning supplies or pushing a housekeeping cart through the halls. They exchanged friendly nods, sometimes stopping to chat for a moment about random things, a guest who left behind a giant suitcase or a hallway light that kept flickering. One particular morning, around dawn, Logan stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. The dew on the grass sparkled in the early sun, and the scent of pine lingered in the cool breeze. He was about to head to the staff dining area when he noticed Zara sitting on a wooden bench near the side of the building, hugging a mug of tea. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw him, as though caught off guard. "Oh, good morning, Logan." He approached, hands tucked in his jacket pockets. "Morning, you're up early." She half smiled. "Housekeeping shifts start before sunrise sometimes. I needed a moment of quiet before heading inside." He nodded, understanding. He'd come out for the same reason, in a sense. "Mind if I sit?" "Sure." He lowered himself next to her. From here, they had a partial view of the lake, the water still cloaked in morning mist. For a long moment, they just watched the shifting light. Logan breathed in, feeling a sense of peace that he rarely found in Manhattan. Finally, he ventured a question. "So, how are you liking Willow Creek so far?" She considered, blowing gently on her tea. "It's nice, busy, but the staff is friendly, and the environment is gorgeous. I'm not used to seeing this much nature." Logan chuckled. "Me neither. My normal view is skyscrapers." She gave him a sidelong glance. "Can I ask you something? You seem different from most managers I've met, more hands-on. Are you new to the hospitality industry, or?" He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I'm new to the day-to-day operations, yes. I've done more corporate-level work before, so this is a learning experience." A faint line of curiosity formed between her brows. "And you wanted to come manage a resort in person? That's unusual." He shrugged, forcing a casual tone. "Just wanted to see how things actually run, Hands-on approach. You learn more that way." She studied him a beat longer, then nodded. "Makes sense. I guess I'm doing the same. Learning by doing." Something about her open face made him want to ask about her life. But he remembered the flicker of pain in her eyes when she mentioned her old city. Instead, he opted for a gentler route. "Is this your first time in a housekeeping role?" Zara huffed a small laugh. "Yeah, hard to believe, right? I was a data entry temp in an office for a while, but after certain things happened, I needed a change of scenery." Logan sensed the sadness beneath her words. "I'm sorry if it was something difficult." She fiddled with the rim of her mug. "My mom passed away a few months ago. I was caring for her, but finances got tough. After she was gone, I just needed to start over. So I left my old city, came here, and took whatever temp work I could get. It's a bit of a gamble, but I needed the fresh air." Logan felt a pang of sympathy. "That's a big life change. I'm sorry for your loss." She looked down, her voice quiet. "Thank you. Anyway, I don't mean to unload on you. It's just early, and I'm feeling reflective." "No need to apologize," he said gently. "I'm glad you shared that with me." She gave him a small, grateful smile. "So what about you? Are you from the city?" He exhaled. "Born and raised, yeah. My family wasn't always well off, but I got into business young, worked my way up. Now I mostly handle big projects." She tilted her head, intrigued. "That's impressive. You must miss the hustle of the city, though, right?" A wry smile curved his lips. "Sometimes, but it's nice to be somewhere calmer. The fresh air is doing me good." They fell into a comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Overhead, the sun continued its ascent, painting the horizon with pale gold. Logan realized with surprise that he'd never felt quite this relaxed talking to someone he barely knew. Zara's quiet empathy and vulnerability wrapped him in a sense of peace he'd been lacking. At last, her watch beeped, reminding her it was time to prep housekeeping carts. She rose, mug in hand. "I'd better get started. Thank you for listening, Logan." He stood as well. "Anytime. Let me know if you need help with the heavy stuff again." She flashed him a grateful smile. "Will do." They parted ways, each heading into the resort through different entrances. Yet a new warmth accompanied Logan that morning, lingering as he tackled a full roster of managerial duties. He couldn't help but think about Zara's resilience, her quiet determination, and the unexpected ease he felt in her presence. As the days rolled on, the resort buzzed with preparations for the upcoming wedding. The bride and groom were due to arrive soon to finalize details, and Logan found himself juggling vendor calls, room assignments, and last-minute decor decisions. He'd never realized how many moving pieces went into a single wedding weekend. Florists, caterers, a DJ, seat charts, lighting, and more. Percent. One afternoon, Logan was buried in the small administrative office, scanning multiple email threads about the wedding. Clarissa popped in, looking harried. The bride just emailed. She wants the entire south wing decorated in vintage autumn colors, like she saw on some Pinterest board. We've got to source extra decorations ASAP. Logan massaged his temples. All right, I'll see if we can find a local event rental place. Maybe we can get some faux vines, pumpkins, or dried flowers. Something rustic, Clarissa sighed. I wish Mr. Ellison were here. He always had a knack for smoothing these last-minute demands. But I guess that's you now. Logan offered a small grin. I'll do my best. He tapped out a message on the staff group chat. Anyone know local spots for autumn-themed decor rentals? Within minutes, a reply pinged in. Try Maple Lane Decorations, 15 minutes away. Also, Redwood Crafts might help. The staff members were evidently used to wedding chaos. Just as he set down his phone, Zara appeared at the door, a cleaning caddy in her arms. She glanced at Clarissa, then at Logan. Sorry to interrupt. Clarissa, I finished the top floor rooms. Need me to switch to the south wing next? Clarissa hesitated, then nodded. Yes, please. The wedding party is going to occupy those rooms, so let's make them extra nice. If you have time, do a quick dusting in the corridor, too. They'll probably want photos there. Zara agreed. Logan saw her eye the mess of notes on his desk. Need any help? She asked softly. I know I'm just housekeeping, but I'm good at research or making calls if you're swamped. Clarissa waved a hand. Nonsense, you're busy enough with housekeeping. Let Logan handle it. But Logan found himself intrigued by Zara's offer. Actually, if you don't mind, I might ask for your assistance once you finish your current tasks. We're looking for new decor, so a fresh perspective would help. Zara brightened. I'd love to. I did a lot of event bookings in my old data entry job. Sometimes I helped with planning. Clarissa eyed them both, then shrugged. Whatever you two want, as long as the rooms get cleaned. With that, she left. Zara set down her caddy. I'll do the cleaning first. Maybe meet you back here in an hour? Logan nodded, relief seeping into his voice. Perfect. Later that day, Zara returned to the office, a bit disheveled from cleaning, but wearing an eager expression. Logan spread out some catalogs from local rental companies. So the bride wants a vintage autumn theme. Think rustic glam, warm oranges, browns, maybe lace or burlap touches, but I'm clueless about where to find all that last minute. Zara perched on the edge of the desk, scanning the catalogs. Redwood Crafts might do custom signs. Maple Lane has garlands and wreaths. We might even combine them if we act fast. She flipped a page. These faux pumpkins with carved designs are gorgeous. The bride might love them. Logan grinned. Yes, we can place them along the hallway or near the door to the banquet room. Let's call them. They divvied up the contact numbers, each making calls to see who could deliver on short notice. Zara's phone manner impressed Logan. She was polite yet firm, negotiating rush delivery fees and inquiring about color variations. She had a knack for event coordination that rivaled any professional manager. When they finished, an hour had melted away. Zara hung up the phone, beaming. Maple Lane can send garlands and centerpieces by Thursday. Redwood Crafts can do an archway for the ceremony if we confirm by tomorrow morning. Logan high-fived her impulsively, a laugh escaping him. You're a lifesaver, Zara. Her cheeks warmed at the praise. Just doing my job, or at least going above it. Feels kind of nice to use my old office skills again. He nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude. You're a natural at this. Maybe housekeeping is just a stepping stone for you. She shrugged, a flicker of sadness passing over her features. Maybe. I'm not sure what my future holds right now. Sensing her uncertainty, Logan gently tapped a pen against his clipboard. Well, from where I stand, your future looks bright. You've got talent. A tentative smile graced her lips. Thank you. Their eyes held for a moment, and Logan's chest tightened with an unfamiliar warmth. He had been around countless polished executives and high society acquaintances. Yet here was Zara, unpretentious, genuine, unexpectedly competent. He felt drawn to her authenticity. He had to remind himself that this was a work setting, that he was just a manager on a temporary stint. But in that fleeting second, he couldn't deny the pull in his heart. Late that afternoon, Logan finished a conference call with the wedding DJ, finalizing the timeline. As he left the administrative office, he spied Zara heading outside, a bucket of cleaning supplies in her hand. Curiosity piqued, he followed, wondering why she was venturing outdoors with cleaning gear. He found her near the side entrance, kneeling by a wooden sign that read, "Welcome to Willow Creek," with gold-painted letters. She was scrubbing away at a stubborn patch of dirt and mildew near the sign's base. "Zara?" he asked gently. "What are you doing?" She glanced up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I noticed this sign looked pretty dingy. Figured it would ruin wedding photos if the couple wants pictures by it, so I'm giving it a quick scrub." Logan was touched by her attention to detail. "I can help," he offered. Without waiting for her response, he grabbed a spare brush from the bucket, knelt beside her, and started scrubbing the lower corner. They worked in companionable silence, the late afternoon sun slanting across the resort grounds. Every so often, their hands brushed as they reached for the cleaning solution, sending a ripple of awareness through Logan. He tried to focus on the task at hand, but his mind kept drifting to how close they were, close enough that he caught the faint floral scent of her shampoo. After a few minutes, Zara sat back, wiping her brow. "Phew, I think we've done all we can." Logan surveyed the sign. "Looks much better. Thank you." She laughed softly. "Funny how a little detail like that can make a difference. Wedding pictures, postcards, social media posts. It all matters in the end." He nodded, appreciating her insight. "You have a knack for seeing those details. Not everyone cares that much." She shrugged, gazing at the horizon where the sun began its descent, painting the sky in pink and orange hues. "Sometimes details are everything. They show we care about the bigger picture." Logan followed her gaze. The sun was setting behind the lake, casting shimmering reflections on the water. He and Zara both paused to admire the scene. "It's beautiful," Zara murmured, her voice hushed. "It is," Logan agreed. He found himself watching her profile, the soft glow highlighting her features. "I never realized how breathtaking this place could be at sunset." She glanced at him, a wistful smile on her lips. "It's moments like this that make me glad I'm here. Even if it's just temp work, I needed an escape. And the beauty around me, it helps." He set down his brush, leaning back on his heels. "You mentioned losing your mom. I'm truly sorry. That must have been hard." She nodded, tears threatening to brim in her eyes, though she blinked them back. "It was. She was sick for a while. I juggled caring for her and working. After she passed, I guess part of me just wanted to run, to not see the same streets, the same apartment where she lived. It hurt too much." Logan's heart clenched. He reached out, lightly covering her hand with his. "I understand. Sometimes we need a change of scenery to heal." She looked down at his hand atop hers but didn't pull away. The silence between them felt charged, intimate. Eventually, she exhaled a shaky breath. "I'm sorry, I don't mean to unload. You have enough on your plate." He shook his head. "No, I'm glad you trust me enough to tell me." He paused, debating whether to share more about himself, about the real reason he was here, or about how he felt isolated despite his success. But he held back, not wanting to complicate matters. "Let's just say I get the feeling of wanting something different." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Thank you." She glanced at the horizon, where the sun dipped lower. "We should probably clean up and head back. Our shifts aren't quite over." Reluctantly, Logan stood, offering her a hand. She accepted, and he pulled her to her feet. For a moment, they stood close, hearts pounding. Then she cleared her throat, stepping away to gather the cleaning bucket. As they walked back into the resort, Logan felt a swirl of emotions. A part of him yearned to confide more in Zara, to reveal that he wasn't just a random manager, but the billionaire owner of Willow Creek. Yet another part worried that it might scare her away or make her feel betrayed for not being honest from the start. For the time being, he decided to live in the moment. Just two people, forging a connection amid the swirl of wedding preparations and housekeeping duties. The truth could wait, at least a little longer. The day the bride and groom arrived, the resort hummed with nervous energy. Everything had to be perfect. Logan and Clarissa organized a small welcome committee in the lobby, complete with fresh apple cider and an autumn-themed floral arrangement. Bride Amanda was tall, stylish, and particular about every detail. Groom Marcus was laid back, seemingly content to let Amanda make most of the decisions. Once they checked in, Amanda insisted on a comprehensive tour, peppering Logan with questions. Have the new decorations arrived? Is the lake area groomed for pictures? What about the dessert bar we requested? Did the chef confirm? Logan fielded each inquiry as calmly as he could, answering where he could and taking notes for follow-up. When Amanda demanded to see the suite of rooms for her bridal party, Logan led her upstairs, where they ran into Zara tidying the hallway. Amanda glanced at Zara. "Are you housekeeping? I need my bridal suite immaculate. My gown alone is worth more than my car." Zara forced a polite smile. "Of course, I'll ensure it's perfect. If there's anything specific you want, extra pillows, a garment rack, just let me know." Logan noticed the bride eyeing Zara's uniform and clip-on name tag with mild disdain. He suppressed a flicker of annoyance and stepped in. "Zara's been a huge help in prepping for your arrival, Amanda. She also coordinated some of your decor." That revelation softened Amanda's posture. "You did?" She eyed Zara more carefully, as though noticing her for the first time. "Well, good. That archway is exactly what I envisioned." Zara dipped her head modestly. "Thank you. Glad you like it." With that, the bride breezed into the bridal suite, expecting Logan and Zara to follow. They spent the next half hour listening to Amanda's requests. Flowers on the nightstand, a certain brand of bottled water, the bed angled to better capture morning light for wedding photos. Logan jotted everything down, while Zara pointed out how best to arrange furniture for the photographer. At times, Logan almost laughed at how meticulously Amanda planned to orchestrate her wedding, but he had to admit her excitement was genuine. Meanwhile, Marcus hovered near the door, occasionally shrugging or muttering, "Whatever you want, honey." He seemed happy enough to let Amanda steer the ship. At last, the couple dismissed Logan and Zara, claiming they needed some time alone to settle in. Logan and Zara retreated to the hallway. The moment the door closed, Zara let out a breathy laugh. "Wow, she's intense." Logan smiled. "Definitely knows what she wants. But you handled her well." Zara shrugged. "I've dealt with demanding bosses before, so a demanding bride isn't too different. She just wants her big day to be perfect." He nodded, taking in the slight flush on her cheeks from the tension of dealing with Amanda. "You're really good at this. Ever consider event planning as a career?" She looked surprised. "Event planning? Not really. I've never done anything long-term, I guess, but helping with these wedding details has been kind of fun." She paused, glancing at him. "Why do you ask?" He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Just noticing your strengths. You have a way of managing people's requests and staying calm. That's valuable." Zara's cheeks warmed. "Well, thanks. Maybe it's something to consider, once I figure out my life." She gave a self-deprecating chuckle. Logan's heart ached at the insecurity hidden in her laughter. He wished he could sweep in and offer her a stable job right then and there, something worthy of her talents. But that would mean revealing his true position, and he wasn't sure how she'd react. Instead, he simply said, "I think you'll do amazing things, whatever path you choose." She met his gaze, a flicker of gratitude in her eyes. "You're sweet, you know that?" His pulse skittered at her compliment. "Don't tell the bride. She'd probably keep me chained to wedding tasks all day." Zara giggled. "Don't worry. Your secret's safe with me." With that, they parted ways to tackle the next set of tasks on the wedding to-do list. But Logan couldn't shake a growing sense of admiration for Zara. Their easy banter, the way they teamed up, he felt more alive than he had in months. Unbeknownst to both of them, the weekend ahead would test not just the resort's capacity, but the fragile bond forming between them. 2 days before the wedding, disaster struck. The chef, who had been battling a stubborn cold, woke up with a fever and lost his sense of taste. Terrified of spreading illness and incapable of cooking properly, he called in sick. Clarissa nearly had a meltdown when she heard. "What do we do?" she cried, pacing the office. "We can't just find another gourmet chef last minute. The bride wants a special menu." Logan exhaled, trying to remain calm. "We'll call for a backup. One of my other properties might be able to send a sous chef, or we can hire a local catering company." Clarissa frowned. "That might take hours, maybe days to arrange. The wedding is so close." Before they could panic further, Zara poked her head in, carrying fresh towels for the office restroom. She overheard enough to guess the crisis. "If you're desperate," she said quietly, I have some catering experience." Clarissa and Logan both turned, eyes wide. "You do?" Clarissa repeated. Zara set the towels on a counter. Yeah, a while back I worked for a small bistro. I wasn't the head chef, but I learned some advanced cooking techniques. Nothing super fancy, but I can handle an upscale menu with the right recipes. Clarissa looked skeptical. Wedding food is a whole different ballgame. We're serving 75 guests. Zara swallowed, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. I won't pretend I can do it all alone. But if we have at least one line cook and I have access to the chef's planned menu, I can try. It might be better than scrambling for an outside caterer with zero knowledge of the bride's requests. Logan recovered from his surprise and locked on to Zara's determined expression. She was earnest, offering a potential solution in the midst of chaos. All right, if you're willing, let's do it. I'll see if we can get at least one more cook from a nearby corporate property. But in the meantime, you'll take charge? She nodded, though her cheeks were flushed. I'll try, but I still have housekeeping duties. Clarissa waved a hand, relenting. We'll reassign housekeeping tasks to someone else. We have a couple of part-timers on standby. Focus on the kitchen for the wedding. We'll do whatever it takes to support you. Zara let out a breath. Okay, I'll need to look at the menu and see what ingredients we have on hand. I might need to do some grocery runs. Logan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We'll make it happen, Zara. Thank you. The rest of the day became a flurry of reorganizing staff, pulling the chef's notes, and calling a nearby country inn to borrow one of their line cooks. Zara dove headfirst into the challenge. She pored over recipes, tested sauces in the resort's kitchen, and wrote up a detailed plan. Logan watched her with admiration, stunned by her versatility. This was the same woman who'd spent her first few days hauling laundry carts, yet she now handled a complicated wedding menu like a seasoned pro. That evening, the bride demanded a sample tasting of the planned dishes. Clarissa fretted over the short notice, but Zara insisted they'd figure it out. Logan offered to be her sous chef for the tasting, though he admitted his cooking skills were minimal. She guided him through basic tasks, chopping vegetables and stirring sauces while she juggled multiple pans. By the time Amanda arrived in the kitchen with Marcus, Zara had plates ready: a roasted squash bisque, lemon garlic chicken with herbs, and a decadent chocolate mousse dessert. The bride eyed the food warily, aware that a housekeeping temp was behind it all. But once she tasted it, her eyes lit up. "This is delicious," Amanda declared, a note of surprise coloring her voice. Marcus nodded, stuffing another bite of chicken in his mouth with a satisfied grin. Zara let out a silent sigh of relief. Logan smiled, feeling a surge of pride for her. Amanda rattled off a few minor tweaks, less salt here, more garnish there. But overall, she approved. The crisis was averted, so long as Zara could pull off the same magic for 75 guests on the wedding day. Once Amanda and Marcus left, Logan found Zara leaning against the counter, face flushed with exhaustion. "You were amazing," he told her quietly. She mustered a tired smile. "Thanks. Let's hope I can keep it up through the reception." "You can," he said with confidence. "I'll help in any way I can." She glanced at him, eyes reflecting gratitude and something deeper. "I appreciate that, Logan. Really." A silent current buzzed between them, more potent than the steam rising from the pots on the stove. Logan had the sudden urge to sweep her into his arms, to show her how much he admired her strength. But in the presence of a half-dozen curious staff members, he merely squeezed her shoulder. If nothing else, he vowed to be there for her. Because every day, Zara James showed him a new dimension of resilience and grace, and he found himself falling harder for her with each passing hour. The day before the wedding passed in a blur of final preparations. The archway arrived, the decorations were placed, and Zara ran test kitchen runs to ensure timing and plating were flawless. Logan bounced between helping her orchestrate the schedule and meeting with the wedding planner the bride had hired as a part-time consultant. Tensions ran high, but the staff pulled together. That evening, after the kitchen had been cleaned and the final items checked off the to-do list, Logan wandered outside to breathe in the cool night air. He paused near the same bench where he'd once found Zara at dawn. The sky was clear, stars twinkling overhead. He closed his eyes, letting the crisp breeze calm him. A soft voice broke the silence. "Long day." He turned to see Zara approaching, hugging a light jacket around her shoulders. Extremely, he admitted, offering a small smile. And for you, she groaned, sinking onto the bench. I've never been this exhausted, but it's oddly fulfilling. I feel like we're part of something special for this couple. Logan nodded, taking a seat beside her. That's one thing I've learned. Weddings may be stressful, but they're also about love, hope, new beginnings. She lifted her gaze to the stars, her profile illuminated by the soft glow of an overhead lantern. New beginnings, she echoed softly, thinking of her own attempt to restart her life. Yeah, that's what I came here to find. He studied her, compelled to offer comfort. Have you found it? A wry smile flickered across her lips. Maybe. Some days I feel like I'm just drifting, but then other days, like today, I realize I'm capable of more than I thought. She turned to him, eyes earnest. A month ago, I never would have imagined I'd be cooking a wedding feast at a fancy resort. He chuckled. You never know what life will throw at you. She exhaled, the sound tinged with vulnerability. Speaking of unexpected, I never thought I'd meet someone here that I... Her voice trailed off, cheeks flushing. Logan's heart thudded in his chest. He reached for her hand tentatively. Zara. She met his gaze, eyes reflecting a hint of apprehension and longing. Logan, these past 2 weeks you've been so kind, so supportive. I barely know your story, but I feel close to you. Is that crazy? He gently laced his fingers through hers. Not crazy. I feel it too. You've opened my eyes to how refreshing it is to be genuine and caring, to see someone who works so hard without expecting anything in return. Her grip tightened. There's something I need to say, though. If I'm being honest, I'm worried. You're a manager, and I'm just a temp worker. I'm leaving in a few weeks, and you'll go back to your corporate life. I don't want to read too much into this. He understood her fear. He felt it too, a sense of the ticking clock on his temporary role. And there was the far bigger truth lingering in the shadows. He wasn't just a manager, he was the billionaire owner. But the sincerity in her eyes spurred him to speak from the heart. I don't want this to end when my stint is over, he said quietly. You're talented, Zara. More than that, I don't know how to put it, but you make me want to do better, be better. I'd like to figure out a way to keep you in my life. Her breath caught, tears gathering in her eyes. Logan, he squeezed her hand. We can talk about specifics later, but just know I care about you. Deeply. And if you'll have me, I'd like to see where this leads. She stared at him, tears threatening to fall. A soft, disbelieving laugh escaped her. I feel the same. You're the first person in ages who sees me for more than my baggage. They leaned closer, drawn by an invisible magnetism. Logan's heart pounded as he cupped her cheek, and Zara's eyes fluttered shut. Their lips met in a tender, unhurried kiss under the star-dappled sky. It was gentle, yet electric, filled with the promise of everything unsaid. The night air felt warmer, wrapped around them like a blessing. When they finally pulled apart, her cheeks shone with both tears and joy. He pressed his forehead to hers. I'm sorry if that complicates things. She shook her head, voice trembling with a laugh. No, it makes everything clearer. They sat there for a long time, hand in hand, speaking in hushed tones about possibilities. But a nagging worry tugged at Logan. He was still concealing the full truth about who he was. He resolved to tell her soon, right after the wedding, when the timing wouldn't disrupt the resort's biggest event of the season. Because if there was one thing he'd learned in business and life, secrets always found a way to surface. He just hoped that when the truth came out, it wouldn't shatter the fragile bond they'd formed under these autumn skies. The wedding day dawned crisp and bright, the sky a flawless azure. Willow Creek Resort buzzed with activity, vendors rushing in, staff polishing every surface, the bride and bridesmaids scurrying between hair and makeup appointments. Logan oversaw it all, feeling equal parts excitement and nerves. This was the culmination of everything they'd worked for. Zara arrived early in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, hair pinned back. Her newly borrowed line cook, a cheerful woman named Andrea, prepped vegetables while Zara oversaw multiple dishes. The bride wanted a multi-course meal. Soup, salad, main entree. Guests had a choice of chicken or a vegetarian risotto, and a dessert station. It was a tall order, but Zara and Andrea attacked it with determined teamwork. Meanwhile, Logan hopped between the reception hall and the kitchen, double-checking table settings, verifying the DJ's equipment, and greeting the early arriving guests. He wore a dark suit, though more understated than his usual designer ensembles. He told himself it was for the bride's sake, to look professional, but in truth, he wanted to appear at his best for Zara, too. A few hours before the ceremony, the bride's mother marched into the lobby, frantic. The florist forgot the corsages for the mothers. We can't have a wedding without mother's corsages. Logan quickly reassured her. I'll see if we can arrange something with the florist or find a local shop. He dashed off to make calls, eventually persuading a nearby florist to whip up 2 simple corsages. Crisis averted. Later, the bride's sister discovered a tear in her bridesmaid dress seam. Clarissa stepped in with a needle and thread, performing emergency sewing in a back hallway. Meanwhile, the groom's uncle got lost on the trails outside the resort, prompting a short search until an employee found him wandering near the lake. Amid all this chaos, Logan stole glances at Zara whenever he passed by the kitchen door. He caught fleeting glimpses of her swirling ladles, garnishing plates, her brow creased in concentration. She was a whirlwind of efficiency and grace, hardly pausing to catch her breath. Finally, the ceremony began on the lawn overlooking the lake. Logan stood at the back, ready to address any last-minute disasters. The bride, looking radiant, walked down a flower-strewn aisle while the groom grinned with uncontainable joy. Vows were exchanged, tears were shed. Even Logan felt a lump in his throat, thinking of the quiet moment with Zara under the stars. Weddings symbolized hope, after all. When the ceremony ended, guests moved indoors for cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. Zara's team passed around trays of canapés. Logan heard numerous compliments about the food's flavor and presentation. Pride swelled in his chest, both for the resort and for Zara herself. Then came the dinner service, the biggest test. Logan joined the staff in seating guests, ensuring no confusion in place cards. The bride's father toasted the couple, then the waitstaff served the first course. Plate after plate emerged from the kitchen, each one immaculate. Logan couldn't help stepping in to help expedite, calling out table numbers, assisting with plating as best he could. At last, the main course was served. The chicken was succulent, the risotto creamy and aromatic. The soft murmur of delight from guests filled the air. Logan made his way to the kitchen, where Zara stood by the stoves, a sheen of sweat on her forehead, her apron smudged with sauce. She looked exhausted but triumphant. "How's it going?" he asked, voice low so as not to disrupt the staff's concentration. She managed a shaky grin. "So far, so good. The chicken turned out better than I hoped. Just dessert to go." He gazed at her with admiration. "You're incredible." She flushed slightly. "I'm just relieved no one's complaining." "No, they're raving. You did this, Zara." For a moment, the chaos around them faded. They exchanged a private smile, a promise hidden in that look. Logan itched to hold her in his arms, but he settled for a gentle squeeze of her hand before returning to the reception hall. Dessert went off without a hitch. Chocolate mousse, fruit tarts, and a small wedding cake from an outside bakery. When the bride and groom performed their first dance, the rest of the staff finally relaxed, sneaking smiles and congratulating each other. Logan spotted Zara peeking from the doorway, relief etched into her features. As the night wound down, guests hit the dance floor, laughter echoing through the halls. The bride tossed her bouquet under the shimmering lights, and cheers erupted. Logan stood off to the side, quietly satisfied that everything had gone well. Sure, it had been intense, but Willow Creek had delivered a magical experience for the newlyweds. His gaze drifted to Zara, who lingered at the edge of the crowd, observing the joyful dancing. She sensed his attention and walked over, breath-catching. Her hair was slightly disheveled from hours in a hot kitchen, but to Logan, she looked radiant. She gestured to the dancing couples. "Think we should join them?" Logan's heart fluttered. He glanced around. Most of the staff had begun cleaning or taking short breaks. He saw no immediate crisis demanding their attention. "If you want to, yes," she smiled. "I do." They moved onto the dance floor, weaving through the swirling guests. A soft, romantic tune played over the speakers. Logan placed a hand on her waist, the other hand gently clasping hers. Zara laid her free hand on his shoulder, eyes bright with unspoken affection. They swayed slowly, comfortably, each step in sync despite neither being an expert dancer. Logan felt a rush of warmth as her cheek brushed his. He closed his eyes, inhaling the faint mix of vanilla and spice in her hair. This was as close to perfect as any moment in his life had felt. When the song ended, they lingered, foreheads touching, hearts pounding. He wanted to whisper every tender thought swirling in his mind, how proud he was of her, how he wanted to keep dancing with her beyond these 2 weeks, how her presence made him feel truly alive. But before he could speak, the bride appeared behind them, squealing in delight. "You two look so cute," Amanda exclaimed, clearly tipsy with wedding happiness and maybe some champagne. "Are you a couple?" Zara blushed, stepping back. Logan managed a polite smile. Amanda let out a laugh. "Don't let me pry. It's just sweet to see romance in the air at my wedding." She swayed off, presumably to track down more champagne or to chat with other guests. Logan and Zara locked eyes, each laughing at the awkwardness. Then, with the wedding still in full swing, they reluctantly parted to return to their roles. Tomorrow would bring the wedding's aftermath, and possibly the moment for Logan to finally reveal the truth about who he was. The morning after the wedding, the resort was a tangle of exhausted guests sleeping in, half-empty champagne glasses in the lounge, and staff tidying every nook and cranny. The bride and groom left for their honeymoon at dawn, hugging Logan and praising the resort's service. Once they were gone, a collective sigh of relief swept through Willow Creek. They'd survived. Logan, however, was uneasy. He had a knot in his stomach, a mix of residual adrenaline from the wedding and the weight of a decision he'd put off for too long. He couldn't hide the truth from Zara any longer. She deserved honesty. He found her near the kitchen around mid-morning, wiping down counters with Andrea. He cleared his throat. "Zara, when you're free, could we talk privately?" She exchanged a glance with Andrea, who grinned knowingly. "Go ahead. I'll finish here." Zara followed Logan to the staff office, curiosity flickering across her face. He motioned for her to sit in one of the chairs. Instead of taking the manager's desk, he seated himself in the other chair, facing her directly. Her brow furrowed. "Logan, is something wrong?" He drew a breath, heart thumping. "I need to tell you something. Something big. I should have told you earlier, but I was afraid." She leaned forward, concern in her eyes. "Afraid of what?" "That you'd treat me differently," he confessed. "That you'd think I was a liar, which I guess I have been in a way." She sat very still, a hint of fear creeping into her expression. "You're not married or something, are you?" she asked in a rush, her voice trembling. He shook his head quickly. No, it's nothing like that. It's about my position here. I'm not just a temporary manager, Zara. I actually own Willow Creek Resort. I'm the founder and CEO of the Ashford Group." She blinked, stunned into silence. For a moment, the quiet was suffocating. Then she let out a shaky laugh, one devoid of humor. "That's quite a joke. You're serious, aren't you?" He swallowed. "Dead serious. My real name is Logan Ashford, not Logan Carter. I came here under that alias because I wanted to see how the resort ran without staff knowing who I was. It was a stupid bet with myself. I didn't expect to find you." Zara shot to her feet, eyes flashing with hurt. "So you've been lying this entire time?" He stood as well, palms raised in a placating gesture. "Yes, but I didn't mean to hurt you. It was supposed to be 2 weeks incognito, but then everything with the wedding happened, and you stepped in. You're incredible, Zara. I was terrified you'd feel betrayed if I told you mid-event. I wanted to wait until after." She pressed a hand to her forehead, trying to process. "You own this place? You're a billionaire?" Her voice rose, trembling with emotion. "All those moments we spent together, me talking about how I was just a temp worker, you must have thought it was laughable." "No," he said, voice breaking with desperation. "I never once belittled you in my mind. I admired you. Still do. That's why I fell for you." Her eyes glistened with tears. "Fell for me? How can I trust anything you say now? You've been lying since day one." He moved around the desk, reaching for her hand. She pulled away, tears brimming. "Zara, please. I didn't do it to mock you. I wanted to learn from the ground level, to remember why I started my company. You're the best thing that's happened in my life in a long time. I swear I never meant to deceive you." She dashed tears from her cheeks. "You should have told me the truth when we got closer, when it became more than just an experiment. You had so many chances, Logan." He nodded, voice thick. You're right. I messed up. I'm sorry. For a long moment, they stood in the hush of the tiny office, heartbreak etched on Zara's face. Finally, she turned away, hugging her arms around herself. I I need time. This is too much. He swallowed, a lump in his throat. Take all the time you need. Please believe me. I care about you deeply. Everything else might have been hidden, but my feelings for you are real. She shook her head, unable to look at him. Then she walked out, leaving him alone in the silent office. Logan sank into the chair, head in his hands. He'd gambled on timing, hoping the joy of the wedding and their newfound closeness might soften the blow. Instead, he might have just lost the woman he'd come to cherish. 2 days passed without much contact between Zara and Logan. She continued working her shifts, but she avoided him, ducking out of sight whenever he came near. Clarissa and the staff sensed the tension, but didn't pry. The autumn festival approached, and Logan poured his energy into final details, though his heart wasn't in it. He debated whether to pack up and leave, to let someone else manage, but he felt compelled to at least see the festival through, fulfill his original purpose. He tried texting Zara apologetic messages, but she didn't reply. Rumors swirled that she might quit early and vanish. The thought of her leaving cut him deeply. On the morning the festival was set to open, an event featuring pumpkin carving, live music, and local crafts, Logan stood near the entry lawn, greeting early guests with a forced smile. His gaze darted around, hoping to catch a glimpse of Zara. He spotted Clarissa instructing staff on game setups, but no sign of the woman he truly wanted to see. Then, amid the trickle of festival attendees, he saw her, wearing a simple sweater and jeans, no housekeeping uniform. She clutched a small tote bag, scanning the area. Logan's heart pounded. He excused himself from a conversation and hurried toward her. She noticed him, shoulders tense. For a moment, he feared she might walk away, but she stood her ground. He approached, voice trembling with emotion. Zara, thanks for coming. She nodded, eyes still reflecting hurt. Clarissa said there might be a ton of foot traffic and they needed extra help. I came to volunteer for the day, but I don't know if I'm staying beyond that. Logan swallowed. I understand. He paused, trying to steady his voice. Could we talk somewhere private, please? She sighed, gaze flicking around. Okay, there's a bench behind that vendor stall. Let's go. They maneuvered through the crowd, finding a small wooden bench partially concealed by a display of carved pumpkins. Zara sat, crossing her arms, and Logan carefully lowered himself beside her, leaving a bit of space. A swirl of autumn leaves blew around them, a brisk breeze reminding him how fragile this moment was. I won't keep you long, he began quietly. I just want you to know, I never intended to lie indefinitely. I truly was going to tell you. I was afraid of losing you. She stared at her hands, voice subdued. I wish you'd trusted me more. It feels like you thought I'd only see your money or your status, which hurts. I'm not that shallow. His heart twisted. I know you're not. That's exactly why I fell for you. You're genuine. You don't care about wealth. I was scared that once you knew who I was, everything would change. And ironically, by hiding it, I might have driven you away anyway. She blinked, tears threatening. It's not about the money. It's about honesty, Logan, Ashford, or whoever you are. I opened up to you, shared my past, my grief. You listened, but you kept a major secret from me. He reached for her hand. This time she let him take it, her grip tentative but not rejecting. You're right. I messed up. I can't undo that, but I'd like to move forward honestly if you're willing. I want you to stay, not just for the festival, but longer. I could give you a real position, events coordinator, chef, or anything that suits your skills. I see so much talent in you. Her eyes widened. A real position? This is your property, so you can do that? He nodded. Yes, and I want to, but not as a bribe. I want to help you discover your path, whether it's with me or not. I just hope it's with me. She studied him a long moment, tears slipping free. I don't want to lose what we had, but I'm scared. My heart can't take more heartbreak. He squeezed her hand, leaning closer. I'll prove myself to you every day, for as long as you'll let me. No more lies. You have my word. Her lip trembled. Then, with a shaky breath, she whispered, I love you, you know. I realized it during the wedding, seeing you lead everyone. It was so unfair that my feelings got tangled in your deception. A tear slipped down Logan's cheek at her admission. Zara, I love you too. I've never felt this strongly about anyone. The air hung thick with emotion. Slowly, she raised her free hand to brush away his tear. Then maybe we can try again, she said softly. But I need you to respect that I'll have doubts at first. He nodded fervently, relief flooding him. Whatever pace you need, I'll be here. She exhaled a shaky laugh. Okay, so you still want me to help with the festival? I might not do housekeeping anymore, but maybe I can manage the vendor tents. He smiled, heart lighter than it had been in days. That sounds perfect. They slipped off the bench and stood. The festival sounds enveloped them. Children laughing, music drifting from the stage, the scent of caramel apples in the air. Logan extended his arm, and Zara looped hers through it, still cautious, but open. Together, they returned to the heart of Willow Creek's autumn celebration. Though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, Logan felt an unshakable sense of hope. He had found someone who wanted him, not his empire. And if it took 1,000 small gestures to rebuild the trust he'd damaged, he'd do it gladly. Because Zara James was worth it, worth any fortune he possessed, and then some. 3 months later, Willow Creek Resort thrived under its new leadership duo. The official announcement went out. Zara James accepted a permanent position as events and culinary coordinator, a role that encompassed her knack for both organizing and cooking. She'd spent several weeks shadowing professional chefs at another Ashford Group property, honing her skills. Then she returned to Willow Creek with renewed confidence. Logan visited often, sometimes for official business, sometimes just to see Zara. Their relationship blossomed in an honest, open way. He no longer hid his identity, and she no longer felt like an outsider. They learned to navigate the occasional gossip from staff and the curiosity of tabloid reporters sniffing out a Cinderella story, but mostly they kept their private life private, cherishing the small joys. On a crisp winter afternoon, with a dusting of snow on the resort grounds, Logan decided it was time for the next step. Under the pretense of checking property maintenance, he invited Zara for a walk by the frozen lake. She wore a thick coat and earmuffs, laughter dancing in her eyes as he slipped on a patch of ice. He caught her for balance, arms wrapping around each other. They reached a small gazebo adorned with twinkling fairy lights left from a holiday event. Zara smiled, stepping into its cozy shelter to watch the snowfall over the lake. Logan's heart pounded. He took a deep breath and pulled out a small velvet box from his pocket. Kneeling in the softly lit gazebo, he saw her eyes widen, tears already forming. Zara, he said, voice trembling with happiness, I'm not one for long speeches, but you changed my life in ways I can't begin to describe. Your kindness, your talent, your willingness to love me despite my faults, it's more than I deserve. Will you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Her hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling freely. She nodded, voice choked with emotion. Yes, Logan, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, and she flung her arms around his neck, both laughing through tears as they sealed their promise with a tender kiss. The snow continued its gentle descent, blanketing the resort in a scene straight out of a fairy tale. Days later, staff gossiped gleefully about the new engagement. Clarissa feigned gruffness but gave Zara a bone-crushing hug. Imogen squealed and insisted on seeing the ring. Word spread that the temp worker and the undercover boss were tying the knot. Most found it romantic. A few found it surprising. But the universal consensus was that the pair were perfect together. In the months that followed, Logan and Zara set a wedding date for the following autumn, wanting to celebrate their love amid the same colorful leaves and crisp air that had first brought them together. They decided to hold it at Willow Creek, the place where they'd both discovered second chances and genuine connection. As the big day approached, they reflected on the extraordinary journey that led them here. A billionaire stepping in for a sick employee, never guessing that a temporary housekeeper turned chef would become his partner in business and in life. It was a testament to fate or chance, or simply the magic of letting one's guard down long enough to let love in. At the ceremony, with the lake shimmering under the fiery autumn sunset, they exchanged vows that spoke of honesty, resilience, and gratitude for every twist and turn that had shaped their story. Surrounded by family, friends, and the staff that had watched their romance unfold, Logan and Zara sealed their forever with a loving kiss. In that moment, the memory of secrets and doubts faded, replaced by a promise of shared dreams, unwavering support, and a future that felt as boundless as the horizon. From an unlikely start, Logan's impulsive decision to manage a resort and Zara's desperate search for a new beginning, they built something lasting, a love that outshone any fortune in the world. And so they lived, forging each new chapter together, hand in hand, with hearts wide open to the wondrous surprises that life continued to bring.